Yeah, yeah.
You are a son of a bitch.
Un saluto a
Hey.
tutti.
What's up, everybody? It's that time again, off the record with Berto, another members only chat, and I'm pumped for all of these. I look forward to these all the time as we fired them up. Again, thank you for all your continued support, everybody that is an AJC member. All right, and you have to be on an actual desktop computer to subscribe through those memberships. You're entitled to the private group chat. You're also entitled to these one-on-one sessions where you actually run the show. And everybody knows I love taking off the host hat and hanging out and chatting Juve. Today I got my man Anthony Trimbley running this one. How are you doing, brother?
Oh, I'm good, man. What's going on over there?
Oh, getting ready for Christmas. It's coming up very, very quickly here. All right.
Yeah.
But yeah, just getting ready. I'm on holidays now until the new year. So yeah, gonna have some fun here, man. How about you? All ready for Christmas?
Oh yeah. Well, just pulled a Costco run with my wife this morning. Got some stuff and just getting ready. Yeah, I unfortunately don't get to celebrate too much this year because I am with my work or with my job. I'm on call for the week of Christmas. But I mean, I'm able to do it with another colleague of mine, so he's going to cover Christmas Eve and Christmas Day for me, which is nice. So at least I
Ah,
get
there
those
you
days.
go.
But the other days I'll kind of have to be working and stuff. But
Well,
hey,
there you go. There
it's a
you
good
go. So
time
you
of
made the
year.
Costco run. So I know the wallet's been drained and hit
That's
hard
it. Oh yeah.
as it always is. But we'll
Yeah.
forget about that quickly. And I think earlier on we'll talk about Christmas involving Juventus as well. But it is free reign for you starting now, brother. Absolutely everything, past and present, for Juventus is in your hands to run this chat, bro. So fire away, man.
Awesome. Well, yeah, like I mean, you mentioned earlier that it's something that we tend to talk about a lot is the present, and I mean, even for myself, like I feel like we're so enthralled in what's going on. We want to know, how can we improve this team? How can we improve this season to get to the top spot and pass Inter? But I feel like we should take a look at the past and kind of deep dive a little bit and see like, hey, what were, for example, some of our earliest, fondest memories of supporting Juve, kind of how we got into it. I know you've talked about it before many times on the show, when you had me on the first time with Reno, we kind of discussed like how you became a fan and whatnot. So putting that aside, I mean, we can start to kind of dissect like what are some of the earliest memories that you remember. Obviously, like a little bit different age gap between us, not much, but you would have seen, let's say, more of like the early to mid 90s where like I was a young kid, but I do remember, the Zidane era. That's pretty much when it became like all Juve,
Yeah.
all the for me. Zidane, Del Piero, like that was when it started for me. 98 World Cup specifically, like I would tell everybody, that was like the World Cup. From that point on is when I like remembered everything. Used to get together with my family. My background story, my mom's side of the family, they used to have a bunch of bakeries. So like my parents had one, and my aunts and my uncles. My mom's one of three daughters, right? And they used to, at my her oldest sister's bakery, they used to close the bakery when Italy would play, and we would all jam inside this bakery. The parents are all smoking cigarettes. I'm an 8-year-old kid watching all the World Cup games, Italy World Cup games. So like those are some of my like fondest memories of watching like Italy, but then also keeping track of the the Juve players, where they're playing, what national team, and then obviously with
Yeah.
the Juventus as well. But
Oh
like little things
man.
like that, right?
So I remember like being really young and it was so hard here to get the Juventus games.
Yeah.
Very, very hard. And I remember always like satellite dishes, just numerous satellite dishes. And we're talking like monster satellite dishes on your house. And my dad flipping through stations. I used to remember the stations were like S1, S2, it was like F3,
Yeah.
and that's all they were named. And you'd have to like choose one of these stations, and then you could hear this monstrosity strapped to the side of the chimney or whatever, and just and you're trying to find the signal for the Juventus game. That's literally what it was like. And sometimes you didn't have it. You couldn't find it, whatever. And like my dad would get like these papers through Italian like convenience stores and stuff that were around, whatever. I remember subscribing to like Football Italia just to like get filled in, find out what's going on. And man, I had all the magazines. I had kept them all. I actually lost them in a flood that happened at my folks' house. Otherwise, I had all of them when I was growing up, the Football Italia magazines. I remember my dad had, and he still to this day has them. We're talking about VHS tapes, 2 matches per recorded from like all throughout the 90s. Serie A, Champions League. Like he just had these 2 massive stand-up floor-to-ceiling chests that were just VHS tapes. And he still has them all, and he just recorded every single game once we started getting coverage and could find these games. But man, I just remember my dad going through whatever it took to try and be able to just even watch the games. And I mean, to think about how easy it is now for us in North America, it was never like that. It was very, very hard to find coverage. But my memories are always just my dad screaming at all hours of the morning. And that's when I knew, okay, it was game time and it's time to go out there, watch the game. And he would wake us up and I'd go watch the game with my dad. I also remember hitting high school and rocking a Del Piero kit with the red names and numbers on the back with the Libertà Digitale on there. Yes. And everybody being like, man, what is that? Like, is he a referee or something? Because black and white stripes. I'm like, no, it's not a referee. I was like, it's freaking Alessandro Del Piero. He's like the best player in Italy. And I would just like run off about Juventus and Del Piero and whatever. So much to the point that these guys that were asking me actually in our high school wrote a heavy metal song about Alessandro Del Piero because of the kit that I used to rock all the time. And they were like, man, he sounds awesome, and they're just like, Del Piero sounds wicked, and they made a metal song that just had Del Piero screaming through it, and I was like, man, that is epic. I wish I should try and actually make contact with those guys from high school and try and get that track and show everybody one day. But those are some of the memories I had, is always trying to bring people to light about Juventus and Del Piero. I remember being the only guy in my high school that would get access to teachers' rooms that had feeds and everything, and watching the Azzurri, watching Juventus games on breaks and stuff in rooms, and actually getting people coming in and watching the games. I was that guy, the only guy in my high school doing that. But yeah, those are some of my early memories around Juventus, man.
Yeah, wow, that's awesome. Yeah, like I was gonna ask you, because like over here in Toronto, obviously we have this one channel in particular. It's called Tele Latino, so TLN, but like it's like Spanish and Italian as well. And then sometimes they do throw in some like Eastern European as well. But like that's an example of a channel. Like it's been around forever in the day. And in those days, mid to late 90s, like when I started growing up and really starting to kind of understand the game, started playing, so kind of all coincided. I just remember the very few times that I happened to be home, or let's say with my a lot with my dad, because it was around the time my parents split. So like my dad was living with my grandparents at the time, my nono and nonna, and my nono used to watch all the games in the mornings. But because I played sports and I was a big hockey guy, like in the wintertime, I wasn't always around at that time. But I just remember always coming back, whether it was like a practice or even a game, then going there for lunch, let's say. And my nonna was watching whoever was playing at the time, but he was always a Juventus fan. So I just remember that. And then like it was always on that channel, and it would be, the Italian feed or the Italian commentary. So of course, don't really understand, but, he's kind of telling me a little bit about this and that. But I remember like seeing like, whether it was, like I said, Del Piero and Zidane, and then eventually down the road into the early 2000s, you had like Nedved, Trezeguet, and those guys, right? So
man, I remember also one of the best, still to this day, probably one of my favorite things that happens like clockwork after every game is the phone calls. the phone calls
Yes.
from my dad's buddies coming in or my dad going out. And it always coincides with if Juve wins or loses. If Juve wins, it's my dad quickly on the horn calling
Yeah.
everybody up. And it's vice versa. If Juve wins, he tries to avoid those calls. It's hilarious. But I remember all of that, man. It was just, it's epic. And the banter was just fantastic from my dad and his buddies, whatever. And if they had ever come over and watched the games, oh man, that's probably where all my banter started, was going at my dad's buddies when they were coming over, because there's Inter fans, Milan fans, and a few Juventus fans. But here where I live, like where we live, it was never big
Yeah.
in the early 90s, mid 90s, and then it's gotten bigger now, but not so much Serie A lot of Prem
Right.
heads, right? But we always rep Juventus, my pops and I, so there you go.
Yeah, exactly. And then I mean, like with me as well, like I'm just thinking back to those times, like when I received like my first kit from family back in Italy. It was always my nonna's side, so my mom's mom. Um, and this one will be it will tie into a topic later, but like the 98 99 blue Libertà Digitale shirt, like it resembles the 95 96 Champions League kit, but they just, I think they removed the stars and they just went with like a solid yellow stripe on the shoulders. And like I just remember receiving that kit and I was like, this isn't the typical jersey. Like it's a different kit, right? I'm just used to the black and the white stripes, but I just remember receiving it. It's like 3 times too big, and they're like just
Oh yeah.
laughing. My nana's like, "No, don't worry. Like you'll appreciate this like when you're older." And then of course, fast forward to like teenage years and high school and stuff. I'm like, "Oh, this actually fits me now." I used to run around with it. It's like a dress on me because I was always a short, small kid, and just like stuff like that. And then yeah, just back then for me, like growing up playing, I was obviously never as good as Del Piero, but like we just, that was the guy we looked up to. Like everybody, all the Italians, like, or for the most part, like even here, like I had friends growing up, obviously who I played with and stuff, and it's weird because I'm trying to think back to those times, if like who they supported, the Italian guys that I grew up playing with, but a lot of them were like Eastern European,
Yeah.
Dutch, English, right? So they all, it was always like that time, especially because that's when Premier League was starting to take off. Beckham's playing, started playing with Man U, so it was like that was the go-to, right? But yeah, I was always just fell in love with the jersey. And like I remember I told you the story the first time we came on about how like my nonna side has some Interisti, and they sent me the jersey, and I was just looking at like, what is this? I'm not taking this. I like the black and the white, and they're like, no, you got to go black and blue. I'm like, no, like I made my decision at that time and stuck with it, and glad I did because
Yeah.
you know
Thanks for the floor mat.
exactly. Or I can use it as some toilet paper and send it back. Here you
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
I'm
That's
not
awesome.
using this. Yeah. So, but yeah. So I mean, it's good we kind of touched on that. So, kind of, re like redirecting into another topic. We're talking about our early memories. So, I mean, for me, right away, I start thinking of all-time starting 11. Who are some of the players? What's the formation? I mean, I know we can go many different ways. I tried to keep it more to guys that I saw because I thought it was a little unfair to start going back
Yeah.
before my time. I didn't really get a chance to see those guys, but like I know if my dad's listening and he ever watches this, he'll say, "Oh, you're missing Ciro Ferrara and some of these other guys, right, from back in the '80s." Platini, obviously, like you could argue he's the best player that's ever played for Juve, right? But I didn't get to see him, so
Yeah.
he's one guy that I would have put on my list, but again, I didn't see him, so I didn't think it was really fair to do that.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah,
Well,
like we can kind of
let
touch on
fire
that.
away with your all-time 11. I love to hear it.
So needless to say, it was really difficult to kind of start because you're trying to like. I think I overthought the formation part of it, but I actually ended up changing my mind like multiple times. But like, this is goalkeeper. We'll start with that. Very, very obvious for me. It's Buffon. Can't go with anybody other than John Luigi. I mean, what he meant to the club, what he still means to the club, what he represented, speaks for itself. With that in mind, this is where it gets a little bit. You can, I know, with your list too, it'll kind of change. But when we go to the defense, I had to have the BBC in there. Now, I can see where you can make a case for maybe taking out Barzali or even Bonucci from that list and inserting some of the other defenders we've had in the past or even in the present. But like I said, I had to go with the BBC as my goalkeeper and defender. So we've got three at the back. I had originally said 3-5-2, but now I've changed it to a 3-4-3.
All
Uh,
right.
so in my midfield, I have Nedved, Zidane, Pirlo, and Pogba as my midfielders. In terms of play, I know it's hard to, like, who would you have as like the two-man pivot and then the guys on the sides? You can kind of decide. Like, I think when I'm thinking of like a young Pogba, I'd put him on the left side because he can make those runs, he can make those passes. I'd keep probably Pirlo and Zidane in the middle because they can control the play and make those passes, and Nedved out wide on the right side. And then up top, I have to have the duo of Trezeguet and ADP, and then I wanted Tevez up there because, man, for me he was like I can't even describe it. It's just when we got him, like, I number one, I was stunned. I didn't think he was going to come to Juve, but then like what he meant in that short period of time, I wish he could have stayed longer. I wish we could have got him maybe when he was a little bit younger, like back in those late 2000s when he was on Manchester United. Like I could just think of him like playing with
Yeah.
Rooney and Ronaldo. But like, man, like he was always and will always be like one of my all-time favorite forward
Yeah.
strikers. Like he was just unreal. So that's my formation.
That's a hell of an all-time 11. I will say
Yeah.
I always love this, and I swear to God it changes by the
Yeah.
week probably when asked this, but
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to hearing everyone that's checking this out. Drop us your all-time 11s in the comments, all right? For me, it's without a shadow of a doubt at goalie, it is Buffon. For me, he's the absolute GOAT. It's a no-brainer. It's got to be Gigi. I did always love Angelo Peruzzi. I will always, so for me, he's on the bench. Loved Peruzzi. So unassuming due to his size. The guy was an absolute bull. Such a good goalkeeper. Peruzzi on the bench. If I'm looking at the defense, and this is where, for me, George, and I will also state these are all-time 11 for me that I've seen play, that I've watched on television and whatnot. I'm not going to pick anyone before that.
Right.
Giorgio Chiellini for sure takes one of my center back spots. The other, I get tossed up between Montero and Ciro Ferrara. And I always find myself giving the edge to Ciro Ferrara for his time at Juventus was incredible. He was absolutely insane. But I always loved Montero and the vibes, the feels for me. Montero gives, like, puts him right there next to it. But Chiellini and Ferrara, I will go with. On the outsides, I have, and this one I don't really struggle with. It's Lilian Thuram and Gianluca Zambrotta for me on the
Yeah.
outside. So I am going to go with the four-man backline. Zambrotta, it didn't matter if it was left side, right side, midfield, fullback, whatever. The guy was an absolute beast. Thuram, absolute unit. Center back, fullback, didn't matter. Same thing. Animal. Those two guys rounded out. In the midfield, I absolutely have to have Zinedine Zidane in there
Yeah.
and Pavel Nedved. It hurts me to leave a guy like Moro Camoranesi out because I
Yeah.
always had such an admiration for this guy. Even Claudio Marchisio. But the one biggest shock when people get my all-time 11 is that, and it just, for me, the vibes, the feels, everything, but it really takes me back to my childhood days and the certain combinations that I watched. But I actually throw Davids in there at the heart of the
Oh, nice.
defense
Yeah.
next to Zidane and Nedved. But Pirlo, it's so incredibly hard for me. And you can ask me again in 2 weeks and I'll tell you it's Pirlo ahead of
Yeah.
Davids. But I have Davids right in there. He's an animal. So good technically, too. I have him in there. I have Roberto Baggio as my attacking mid, making up the top of these guys. In behind, I can't leave Roberto Baggio out. This guy mesmerized me when I first started watching and following. I was like,
Yeah.
my God, this guy's insane. Del Piero, I watched his entire career. He's in there for me. And I can't separate the duo of Del Piero and Trezeguet.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's it for me. And balance all that. I don't give a shit. That is my all-time 11. Like those are the guys I'm rocking with. It's incredibly hard for me to leave Tevez out of the front. There's a lot of other guys it's hard to leave out, but I can't deny Vialli for me. I would love to throw in there. Ravanelli, I would love to throw in. That's the first Trident I watched was
Right.
Baggio, Vialli, and Ravanelli.
Oh,
I'd
yeah.
love to get them all out there. Those guys are honorable mentions for me. Tevez, Vialli, Ravanelli. But that is my all-time 11. And like I said, I don't think there's a wrong answer out there. And it comes down to, at the end of the day, the feels. But like I said, Pirlo's the one that, oh man, it's hard. I'd love to get him in there. I always lean on those other guys for the memories and everything. But Pirlo brought some great recent memories. And I think Pirlo's one of a kind. And really, he should be in there. And I don't mind people faulting me, but I always just loved everything about David's game. And
Yeah.
I just, for me, he was like the man growing up. Loved him.
Yeah, and that's the thing too for me. Like I find just like thinking back to like my list and then yours, like for me, like Pogba's more recency bias. Like we could argue that he is probably one of the most skilled midfielders we've ever had. But to your point, like Edgar Davids, man, the things he could have done with that ball was just incredible. And I remember at that time, like just having him playing behind Del Piero and Trezeguet with Nedved, like those four alone in those early 2000s, like it was just unbelievable to watch.
Yeah, I just love the viciousness and tenacity out of Davids. Like he just embodied Juve for me for like his time there, and it was just like, man, this guy, you had to kill yourself to get one up on this guy in the middle. I loved everything about his game, man. The fact that he could literally do it all.
Yeah.
Loved it,
Yeah.
man. Loved it.
Yeah, just that like bulldog mentality, right? Retrieving
Yeah.
balls, giving ball, like setting up guys. Like he was just, yeah, he was special. And even I was gonna just mention about your back line there. Like, yeah, you can't go wrong with the versatility of a Turam and Zambrotta, especially. Like, man, like you said, they could flip flop either side. They could play in the middle. They could play in the midfield. So, you can't really go wrong with any of those choices, right? And even in the midfield, like a guy like Conte, like again, I didn't really see him much, but Antonio Conte was a great midfielder, right? So like even him, you could have even had him as like an honorable mention as maybe a guy on the bench, but like right
Conte,
there.
Tardelli, those guys make a
Yeah,
lot of all-time lists for the older
yeah,
guys. They do.
yeah, yeah,
Tardelli especially. Man, we've had a plethora of incredible players at Juventus. Like I said, it comes down to feels essentially when you're
yeah.
doing your all-time 11s because there's practically no wrong answer.
Exactly. And that's a perfect segue for me into the next kind of discussion. So, in saying that with our starting 11, one thing that I've always liked to do is just look back at, and again, it's hard to choose one specific squad. So, I'll kind of broaden it to two. So, we'll go post Farsopoli and pre Farsopoli. Two of our all time favorite clubs. It could be, you know, the team that won the most trophies that season. It could be a team that gives you a certain kind of feel of watching games that you remember certain goals, whatever the case may be. Um, yeah, you can give me your favorite pre and post Farsopoli club. Like,
I yeah, and I'm gonna be quite honest. I kind of struggled. I kind of struggled with a couple of the pre Farzopoli days.
yeah,
I really did because I mean I'm battling like roster versus memories with some
yep,
of them as well, and then accolades. It was very very difficult for me. I think I it's hard for me to rule out the 95-96 Champions League winning squad. That team was absolutely insane. Absolutely insane. It's in the mix. I also have 1997-98 Juventus. And probably my favorite Alessandro Del Piero version out of all the eras of Del Piero. He was like 32 goals all comps that
yeah,
year. He literally went off. It was crazy. The kits were spectacular in 97, 98 as well.
Yeah.
One of my favorite homes. We'll get to that too. And then
Yeah.
I had the 0203 Champions League finalist squad as well in there. Um, it, it's really, really hard for me. Um, Man, I think push come to shove. It's hard because Buffon, man, and I love Buffon, and he wasn't a part of the
Yeah.
97, 98, but that team was sick. It was absolutely sick. Peruzzi, Ferrara, Torricelli, Montero was in the mix. Delivio, Conte, Inzaghi, Del Piero. Padovano played a role from the back there. Deschamps, Birindelli, um, Davids, fuck man, Tacchinardi, Zidane.
Yeah.
It,
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with a slight edge 97, 98 as my favorite pre-Barzopoli side Juventus.
Okay.
Um,
Good
and
choice. Very
just
good choice.
barely, and a very, very hard choice, but I'm going to go with the 97 and 98 side. And we obviously know runners up in Champions League, one of the 3 consecutive seasons that they had running that they weren't able to, but Serie A first and semi-finalist Coppa Italia, but incredible side, and I'm going to go with them.
Okay. That's a
Yeah.
good choice. Yeah. So do you want me to give mine and then we'll
Yeah,
do the
let's hear
post?
your pre-Farzopoli best side.
So, I mean, my like who I had to choose between were definitely very similar to yours. You can't argue. It's hard to argue against that 97, 98 team because, like you said, like it was like the carryover from the 95, 96 within that era of winning Champions League. And like my choice and your choice are the same in the sense that it's 2 teams that just fell short.
Yeah.
And you sit back and you kind of scratch your head and you just think, damn, like look at that roster. How did they just like how could they not seal the deal, right? So for me, it's the 0203
Yeah.
squad. But again, like the 97, 98 squad's right there, and that's around the time, like I said, about the year before, right around when I got my first kit, and like so it kind of all ties into that nostalgia feel, and it's kind of coincides with the feeling of this show. It's all a lot of it is mostly nostalgia. We're talking about the past, right? So, but that 0203, like I said, it was like right around the wheelhouse. Like I was playing heavy. I was playing at a higher level too around that time. So like I was right into it. We had just come off that crushing Euro that we lost to France. And like I remember, like I said, I'll never forget. It's like just watching those games and
The
even
0203, the reason I struggle so much with that side too is not making it my favorite, which it really is there amongst the top. And you would think I would take that because it almost has all of my top 11 all-time Juve guys in there. Like
right.
Zambrotta's in there, Buffon's
Yeah.
in there, Nedved's in there, Del Piero's in there, Trezeguet's in there. The team was ridiculous. The team was
Yeah.
ridiculous that season and just fell short. One of my biggest what ifs around Juventus is what if Nedved was available for that final. I will always just get PTSD with that foul on McManaman there in that semi leading up to it that saw him out of it. But yeah, the 0203 and 97 98 for me, it's like neck and neck, man. And I totally understand the 023. Like I said, ask me tomorrow, I'll say 0203.
Yeah, and it's funny too because like we both acknowledge that you could easily go with the 95, 96 Champions League winning side, right?
Yeah.
And like I feel like the 3 of them are all kind of right there, and for whatever reason it's the 2 that got away are the ones that are just slightly ahead because it's like, it's almost like we're jealous like we wanted we wanted those trophies, those 2 other trophies right in there, and then our trophy cabinet will look a lot different compared to a side like Milan, right? But unfortunately, it's part of our history, right? And we just got to take it for what it is, and
Yeah.
just hope that in the future there's more to come, right?
I'll
But
never understand how we didn't pull over more of these finals, especially that 3 in a row finalists in Champions League out of
yeah,
those 90s. Like, oh man, I can't get over it. It hurts to this day, but we had some incredible sides. Post Farzopoli as well. Post
Yep.
Farzopoli as well. We got to give our top Juve team of post Farzopoli. Which is yours?
Oof. So again, really tough to choose because this is around the era where we're starting to watch more games, starting to follow the players like a little bit more closely. It's hard to say, but for me, it's 14-15. Was right before Pirlo leaves, right before we lose Pogba. We go to that Champions League final. We should have won that Champions League final if it wasn't for damn Pat Evra not clearing the ball, the non-foul on Pogba in the box. Still to this day, don't understand how that wasn't called. The likes of Tevez up front, Pirlo, Marquisio, like just that squad was just so stacked, and to see it unravel the way it did, it always hurt. But that for me is the club post
That
Farsopoli that
yeah,
holds it on my heart for sure.
that's mine as well. If I'm thinking post Farzopoli as far as top Juve sides, it has to be one including Andrea Pirlo.
Yeah,
Again, people will find it funny. He's not in my all-time 11, but he's like
yeah,
right
yeah.
there on the cusp. But it has to include Pirlo. It's got everybody else you'd expect through that decade of dominance that should be there. The BBC is in there. Buffon obviously in there. Lichtsteiner, Evra, Pogba, Marquisio, Pirlo, Vidal, Morata, Tevez. It's got them all, and the supporting cast as well with Coleman, Lorente, Matri was still kind of around too.
Yeah,
It's like
yeah.
14, 15 for me. That's the side. That's the side, and that's the one that probably I'd say that one stings me more than that 17 final is probably
Yeah.
that Barca one because I feel it could have went so much differently if not for some unfortunate series of events. Marquisio bossed that middle in that
Oh, yeah.
game.
Oh, yeah.
Um, yeah, that side for me is the top Juve side post Farzopoli, but there's definitely some other teams with shouts to be made, like the other Champions League finalist team,
Yep.
um, and potentially one that includes Ronaldo. So I'm interested to hear what the viewers have to say as their top sides, both pre Farzopoli and post. But great question topics. Love chatting about how people see these sides and who they judge to be the best and why. Right? It's awesome.
Oh, exactly. And like, you mentioned to the members, like definitely hit us up with some of the answers to these questions. I'm glad I've been asking some of the hard hitting questions. I feel, the host hat
Man,
on
it's
right
it.
now.
These
So
ones are always hard because, like I said, you battle emotion versus you know emotions versus accolades versus feels like it's just like you go back and forth. And I know when we get to kits, which we know we're always going to talk about, you and I both love kits. I know that's always a fight for me personally on, and it
yeah.
changes by the day, 150%. So I think you could find tweets from me when we get into kits that I'll be like, this is our top kit no matter what. And you could probably see another tweet if you check my history 2 weeks later saying this is the best kit ever for Juventus.
Yeah, no, for sure. And that's gonna be the next topic. But like I just wanted to quickly just touch on something like even like um and going back to like that 14-15 squad, and then it changed a little bit going into 15-16. But like you could have even made an argument for the 15-16 squad because you lose Tevez, but you bring in Dybala. But the thing is with that squad is they didn't go as far and as deep as they probably would have liked to in the Champions League. But like just one thing that I'm kind of on the fly thinking of was like what would be like it's and this is a tough one too, like all-time favorite goal that let's say like just gave you, I don't even know, just some kind of emotion. Like for me, and it sounds kind of funny or like a little strange, but it's that Morata goal against Manchester City, and it was in that
The Man
same
City
year in
slide.
15-16. Yeah, it was wearing that kit. It was the epic celly with the ball and quad just all sliding. Like it was just, I don't know what it was about that goal. It just like that just like symbolized that era of Juve for me. Like
Dude,
besides the obvious
for
Champions Leagues and stuff.
my favorite by far, without a shadow of a doubt, my favorite Dybala era, the first coming of Dybala 15, 16, like sick. Everything from the
Yeah.
haircut, his styling, like everything. I was just like, dude, this is sick. Like that's my favorite era Dybala, and I think I love talking about guys that have had some decent tenures with Juventus and favorite eras. Like, what's your favorite Buffon era? What's your favorite Del Piero era?
Yeah, I know. Well, okay, so since you're bringing it up, like we'll start with Buffon. Like for me, selfishly, I'm gonna go with the '06, early '06 eras. But like we even discussed it before, like that guy aged like a fine wine, man. And how can you argue the nine Scudetto run, like that sequence where he was just
Yeah,
giving her, and he was in his early to mid to late 30s, just crushing it against some keepers that are in their mid to late 20s, and this guy's just standing on his head making unreal saves. But for whatever reason, just that '06 run where he was like arguably the best player on the planet, you could say, winning that World Cup with Italy. Obviously what happened with Farsopoli, it was just a complete shame. But even that, like, that aside, for whatever any of the other supporters of the other clubs say, like we just dominated on and off the field that entire season. He himself, that run, like, so that for me will always be his prime. But
I
I'm curious to hear yours.
for Buffon, I always go back to 2003, and it's
Oh,
like totally just because outside of players' kits,
yeah,
I absolutely loved that pink goalkeeper kit that he had with the abs on it and stuff like that. And I
yes,
always, when I think Gigi Buffon, I immediately like go to the visions during that season with that kit and his hair, the sideburns, the choker necklace that he wore. And like, I'm like,
yeah,
man, that was like, we knew what we got and what we had before. But that season, it felt like it was cemented, like, holy, we got the man,
yeah, oh
and
yeah,
it was like, for me, it was like, that is the Gigi I go to immediately. Probably my favorite era Buffon, but '06, he took on and became and was crowned the guy, and stayed. I got chills hearing about the story of him explaining in '06 when they literally asked him, where do you want to go? And he says, well, how come you guys haven't even mentioned me staying? I get chills, man. Like when he was explaining that, it's epic. '06 is there. And 13 to 18 Buffon was an absolute freak show. And he kept defying what everybody thought was going to happen. And he just kept going and going. And all the next guys just kept faltering, and he just kept going and
yeah,
going and going. Guy is hands down the GOAT, but my mind always goes instantly to '03.
yeah,
So Gigi
definitely.
Buffon for me, favorite era '03. Del Piero, I kind of answered. For me, it's 97, 98 Del Piero.
Yeah,
The hair,
yeah,
the chops, his play, the kit, like it was just, he was a monster, man, a freak. The best version of Del Piero, 97, 98 for me.
oh, 100%. The cellies, the tongue sticking out, or even sometimes he throws the jersey over the head. Like I remember being a kid, like playing soccer in the summer, and just like everybody wanting, like, if you score a goal, you got to celebrate like him. Like it was just, that was the go-to.
Pure passion, man. Pure,
Yeah,
pure passion. And there was nothing he couldn't do. He had the wheels then. This was pre injury, like the pace, the dribbling, the shooting range,
the
uh,
range, the range.
the
Yeah,
passing, the vision, everything, man. Total footballer. Pre injury, 97, 98 Del Piero, the best, hands down.
yeah, for sure. And then, it's funny because you say pre-injury, but even post-injury, like the way he came out of that, and then how he still managed to keep his level. Like, okay, he dropped a little bit, like it's fair to say. I mean, a big injury like that, right? And at the time, surgeries weren't what they are now, where they can pretty much fully reconstruct the knee, and guys will come back, and you're like 100%. Like with Chiellini, we
There
saw.
was he had a very tough time coming back, and there was a lot of speculation about Juve getting rid of him.
Right. Yeah.
And his play was not where it needed to be. And then it all kind of came back with that goal for his father.
Yeah.
And that's another epic kit, the navy blue kit in that
Yes.
season. And
Yeah.
what from there on, he just pulled it all back together again. Yeah.
It's like that was the goal that just told him and gave him that, hey, you still got it, bud. Don't worry.
Talk
Just
about
keep.
a what if. Talk about a big what if for Juventus. What if Del Piero was the one that moved and Zidane stayed?
Ooh, yeah. Well, it's funny because I didn't mention it when I mentioned that 0203 was my favorite team, and ultimately we lost to them in the final. But I'm thinking to myself, like, I always think to myself, like, what happened if Zidane stayed for that team to be on Juve at that time? But then maybe we wouldn't have got a Nedved.
We
Maybe
wouldn't have
we
got
would
the all
have
that
never got a
money went
Trezeguet.
to what a swing in the roster because
Yeah,
all those guys came at the same
yep,
time. Nedved,
exactly. It
Turan,
was all
Buffon, you
Yep.
know?
It was all because we lost Zidane to Real, right? So,
Yeah.
there was the good and the bad. It's almost similar to early 90s when, you went from Baggio to Del Piero. Same thing, like not to that magnitude, not to the same level obviously as a Zidane, but still like that's kind of the ebbs and flows of a roster where now it's like if you relate it to right now, it's like post Ronaldo losing him and like kind of what we got now, like you see, like we talk about it all the time, right? We don't really have that depth or that all around squad, and it was because we had one guy that kind of
And
took over for
and
everything,
that's a
right?
thing is like we went from Baggio and made 3 Champions League finals consecutively.
Without him, yeah,
It was seamless.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
it's crazy to think one of the most talented Italian footballers ever and Juve went away with and it was a seamless transition. Crazy to
yeah,
think, but that's how
yep,
good those squads were. And that's why
exactly.
it's a hell of a question when you put us all on the spot with top Juve sides.
Well, hey, I'm happy that I'm asking, like I said, the hard hitting
and
questions here.
and we
So
have to say that obviously it's teams we've watched because there is a definite shout to be made with the 80 sides that had Shirea and Gentile, Bettega,
mhm,
like obviously Platini,
yeah,
but we got to talk about what we've seen. So, yeah.
yeah,
There's
exactly.
definitely a shout for those teams in the 80s for sure.
Yeah, no, for sure. And maybe there will be a time where you bring someone on that kind of saw that a little bit more and they're able to kind of reflect on that, right? So,
Yeah.
like I said, I can only really speak of what I saw, which still
Yeah.
all good times, all good memories. Just speaks to how deep our club's been and the rich history that we have, which is why I'm more of a nostalgic guy. I've always loved history when it comes to sports in general.
Yeah.
But segueing from that is my got to be my favorite topic. I know it's got to be yours too because based on what I'm seeing behind your chair there, I see all those lovely kits there. So I mean, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask. You know, top 10 kits. We'll start with that. So all time. It could have been in the eras that you didn't watch, let's say, but I again tried to keep it to
well,
what I saw, which I know for you might be next to impossible, and the
I,
list might change even after
I
naming
got
it.
them
So
ready for you, though.
you
I
got
got
them
them
ready?
ready for
Okay.
you. I
Okay.
tried not to really think about it. I tried just to go across the closet and just grab them instantly, like, yes. Okay?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I think when I sit there and think about it, I change way too much. But these are the
100%.
ones I feel I've been most consistent with when the question comes up.
Okay.
The 84 Ariston for me,
Yeah.
this one is class, and I absolutely love it. And it was a fantastic year. I was brought into the world. So
Yeah,
84
there you go.
Ariston. We're gonna go with this one. Okay, this
Yeah.
is in no particular order either.
Okay. Okay.
1995-96 Champions League winning kit has to be,
Yeah.
in there.
Has to be.
Iconic.
Yep.
This one is iconic with people that don't even follow Juventus. The
Right.
Sony, the blue, the stars, they knew. They knew.
Yep.
I
Yep.
remember playing video games, early FIFA games.
Yep.
People would choose Juve because of that kit and recognize
Right.
that team because of the kit. 97-98 home kit has to be.
Yeah. Can't go wrong with that
This
one.
is up there for me as one of their best all time.
Yeah.
It just like for home kits, I make the argument this could be the best home kit. Period. But that's another argument and discussion. I've always loved the 0203 home. I
Yeah.
like, for me, this is absolutely beautiful. It's in the mix for me. Top. This kit has all the feels and the looks. It checks everything off. Okay. And we know we love our black Juventus kits, but the Cinque Maggio kit,
Oh.
absolute
Oh.
stunner. Has
Yes.
to be, has to be in
Oh
there.
yeah. Of course. Yeah.
Always, man. Always. Checks all the boxes. Absolutely clean. Um, kidding me? One of my favorite memories of all time.
The
Still
sponsor.
enjoying it.
Yeah, the sponsor and even like the lotto making it like just
Yeah.
so sick. Yeah.
This one, again, black kits, they got to make it in there, but this one, all timer.
Ooh. Yeah.
Way too clean. The fact that they had to throw the Sul Campo in there, that little bit of edge and attitude from Juve, putting the 3
Beautiful
stars on,
touch. Yeah.
that
Oh
this
yeah.
kit came with 2 variations. The 2 stars without Sul Campo, and then the 3 with
Right.
30 Sul Campo.
Yeah.
Got it in long sleeve too. Oh,
Oh, beauty. Yeah, that's nice.
beautiful.
Long sleeve.
This one's in there. 17-18 home kit for me, one of the cleanest home kits as well.
Classic. Yeah. Oh
Like,
yeah.
fantastic. It's in there. Now, 15-6, again, the black kits come up. 15-16 third with the gold. What are we
Yeah.
talking about here? You got it up behind you. Stunner.
It's just you can't go wrong. It's just so clean. Oh, beautiful.
If there's ever a name set that just fits,
That
Marquisio
kit
8
specifically, yeah,
on
it's
the
just
back
it's
of
gotta
this.
be, yeah, yeah,
I don't know. I don't know if there's a nicer match. This one might surprise people. For me, I always loved this kit and thought it was just class, but this blue,
yep,
Pirlo on the back, the Champions League badge, and like this kit, just something else. The stars, it's had the detail in the background, that nice subtle detail. Just a clean kit. Always absolutely love this. Fino alla fine,
yeah.
inside, like, just nice, man. Just beautiful. This one might surprise people, but it makes my all-time 10. And then, come on. Arguably the best ever 120th anniversary Juventus.
Yep.
There's only one thing I don't like about this kit.
Okay.
The cuffs and the collar.
Hmm.
It's my only knock on this kit. Black cuffs,
Just like,
white collar. To me, that's the only knock. I would have preferred a different collar on it, but it's still an epic kit and arguably the best ever. Funny enough, Giorgio Chiellini, while everybody must have seen that video of him shopping for kits with that pop-up classic football shirt store, named this as his favorite Juventus kit he ever wore. He donated his to charity and said he is actively seeking one. Giorgio, I love you, brother. I will never get rid of that kit. I'm sorry. If you're viewing, I will not help you. I'm never getting rid of that kit. And I understand, but you've done a lot for charity too. You should have hung on to that kit, brother. You should have hung on. But a beautiful gesture from him. But he named that as his favorite kit he ever wore while playing.
Yes. Yeah. I remember. I saw that. I remember watching the video because that was. I think it was in LA when
yeah, and it wasn't that long ago. It was like
no,
probably
it
a
wasn't
few
long
weeks
ago at all. And
yeah,
it's funny because they had a pop up in New York about a month before I went, and I was like, "Oh, I'm hoping they're still there." It's because I wanted to go check it out, and unfortunately, it wasn't there. There was another store, so I popped in and I sent the picture in the group chat, the Berna. I saw the front, and I was like, "Oh, this is awesome." Turn around to the back, I'm like, "Oh, no, thanks." So I'm
yeah.
like, about picking one up. I'm like, no, it's all right. But yeah,
Now,
no, yeah.
your top 10 Juve kits. What differed from my list?
So believe it or not, actually, I think I have quite a few different ones, but like all the
Nice.
ones that you mentioned are like really, really nice. So for starters, like at 10, and again, like you could argue no particular order. I know what my number one is, and I think it's pretty obvious because it's hanging up back there. So I'll start with that one. I'll just get that out of the way. That's number one. And number two on my list is the 15-16 pink. Can't go
The
wrong
pink
with either of
15,
those two.
16. Yes.
Those ones, just for whatever reason, I don't know why, I was always drawn to it. Again, it could be the nostalgia of that season, that team. For whatever reason, I felt those were the nicest. But what I would say is the only thing I didn't like about that kit in particular wasn't the kit itself. It was the shorts having the white. I found it was strange. I'm like, you got a black with gold stripes. It's like, why don't you just put gold on the shorts too? Like it threw me off that they always had the white. Either way, I'm not gonna complain about that. The kit itself was nice, so it was good.
Yeah.
But start at 10, I had 95, 96 because of the Champions League. And oddly enough, at number 9 was another version of that kit was 98, 99. And the reason I had that was because that was the first one that I was gifted from my family. So it had the Libertà Digitale on it. That logo was always iconic. I never understood what the sponsor was. I remember being a kid and like, this is kind of odd. And they veered away from the Sony. And I remember it was a big thing, like, because Sony just class. Like,
Yeah.
the home, away, whatever it was with that Sony logo, mini disc, like just chills. Like it just reminds me of so much
It
nostalgia,
was
right?
it was so cool. Yeah, it was just I don't
Yeah,
know, it was just such a nice fit.
exactly. Like it just, if we could ever get back Sony, it'd be awesome. But we'll save that for another day, right?
We're
But
gonna get
yeah, so
somebody
those
new
were
pretty soon, so we'll see who it is.
exactly. So that was my 10 and 9. Number 8 would actually surprise most people, and you had it, you pulled it out. But I put the 18-19 gray kit. I don't know what it is about just that light gray solid. Like for whatever reason, there's the theme with me was I just liked simplistic, just all one color. And I really, really liked the black lettering on the numbers and the jersey. Yeah, that's the one right there. Like I don't know what it is. A lot of people just say, "Oh, it looks like a training kit or whatnot," but like I just loved it. I don't know.
This is a beautiful kit.
Yeah, yeah,
I like this collar with just the single button up top. I thought it's
yeah.
just a clean kit. The black and white striping on the cuffs,
On the
nice
cuff,
little
yeah,
touch.
with that
It's a
little
beautiful
gray,
kit.
like
Beautiful
just
kit.
solid. Yeah. So again,
Every
a little
time
more.
I wear that kit, like on an update video or a show or anything, everybody always
Yeah,
says, I regret not picking
yeah.
that kit up when I see you wear it in a video or something. I'm like, it's an epic kit. I've got it with Mario and I've got it with Giorgione.
So funny enough, I'm like watching, I think 2 or 3 of them on eBay, and I'm just like keep watching. I'm like, oh, I'm like hesitating to pull the trigger on it, but like it's there, and I'm like, okay, if I ever
It's
just
a
want to
it's
pull
a
the trigger, I
beautiful
know.
kit. Beautiful
Yeah,
kit.
I've always liked that one. Number 7, a little bit. I'm surprised not many people mention this one. You've mentioned it before, and I bet once I say it, you'll say like, oh, it could have been on your list too. 97, 98, the centenary, the pink,
Yeah. The
really
pink
nice.
centenary is what are
It's
we
just
talking about?
you got you got to go get it.
It could easily be in there. It's a stunner.
Yeah, like
Like
how
it's a
can you
stunner.
not appreciate again with the Sony mini disc logo, Kappa, like oh,
I,
just
it could definitely be in there, and it's on a lot of people's lists.
yeah,
It's unreal. It's unbelievable.
yeah,
It's a
yeah,
beautiful
just
kit.
such a nice touch for the centenary. Like I really really appreciated that they did that. Just the thick cuff and the little stripe down the chest, the black, like just such a nice touch. And again, Kappa, I'll always have a soft spot for that because again, that was around the time I was growing up. But I wish they were big enough to sustain a big club sponsorship or whatnot. But I understand why now. But
You know,
just
the more I look at this kit, I might have fucked up. I might have.
there you go. See, I knew I was gonna have
It's
one in
it's
there.
it's it's beautiful. It's a
Yeah.
beautiful kit.
So, so now number 6, it's a home kit. So one thing I was going to mention, I should have mentioned off the top, is I didn't really have any of the home kits, and the reason being is because I could argue that they're all like that's what we're known for is our black and white home kit. So for me, it was really hard to choose one home kit because I like them all for the most part. I find that the reason I chose this one though is because I'm starting to realize I appreciate the thick black stripe or the thick stripes in general. So I went with 14-15 home. But you could easily make a case for, I think it was 16-17 was the one
I
you
had
had with the gold
17-18
Adidas.
home. Yeah.
17-18. Even that one, beautiful. But for whatever reason, I can close my eyes and just see Tevez cruising, like flying
Yeah.
down the wing in a 14-15 home kit. And it's just like, I
Yeah.
just remember
For the
that with
home
the,
kits, man, I had quite a few. The 97-98, the 2002-03. Yeah, it's just
they're
for
all
home
just,
kits, they're all nice in their own style and whatnot. And 97-98 had the thick stripes, and then 17-18 had the nice thin stripes, nice
exactly.
collar. Yeah, it's we've had a lot of nice home kits, a lot of nice
That's the
home
thing.
kits.
They did a lot of nice variations with the stripes, but just for whatever reason, I was always drawn to those thicker stripes. The thin stripes are nice too, but
Yeah.
that was one for me. So that's surprisingly the only home kit on my list. At number five, a little bit surprising too. 2020-21, the blue with the cream. Do you remember that
2020
one?
blue
I'll
with
pull it
the
out. I'll pull it
bl-
out. Hold on.
I think I know. Okay, I was thinking a different blue one. I was thinking the dude, that's a nice kit.
Yeah,
In your
I don't
top
know.
10.
I don't know why, but
Wow.
like I just love it with Morata. Like it was sick. Just the dark. I appreciate the navy, like the dark blue with the white, like just the collar, the sleeves, like with those stripes. Like
Wow.
this, they could have changed a bit, but like I don't know. Yeah, I
I'm
really
su-
like this
I'm
kit.
I'm
So
I'm surprised by that pick. I'll tell you.
yeah, I don't know. Again, maybe I'm biased because I own it, but like when I saw it, I was like, I need to get this kit. I don't know why. Just something it drew me to it. So
Yeah. I have it with Chiesa on there. 22
oh, that's
Chiesa.
nice. Yeah, because I think that was the first season we got him,
That
if I'm
was
not
he was
mistaken.
22, yeah.
Yeah, so
Wow.
that
Wow.
for me, that's in my top five. That's
There
number
you
five.
go.
Number four, I have as well. I'll grab it. You'll know this
Okay.
one.
Ah, yes, another black kit.
No name, but I messed up on this one. I was gonna get I meant to get Locatelli. That was the first season, so I think he was 27, if I'm not
27,
mistaken.
yeah.
Yeah, and I have a soft spot because my birthday is the 27th. So, but like the stripes, the little fine details on the shirt, the 4xe we could have done without, but
Yeah.
we'll leave that, But
I will
just
agree
yeah,
with that. That the 4xe is a killer for me on the newer kits. Just
yeah,
Jeep
yeah,
is beauty. But
yeah.
that's interesting, man. You got some interesting picks there, and that's what the beauty of this stuff is, man. Like these questions, I love it. I love seeing
Exactly.
variation.
Yeah, and that's why too, like as you can see, like for whatever reason I was always drawn to the darker colors, the blacks. Like there's some honorable mentions I'll mention after that didn't make my cut, but like I said, a different day of the week I could easily swap out a few of these and put these other honorable mentions on. But to kind of wrap it up, I went also with at number three, which again more recent, but last year's away kit, 22-23, that black kit, and my biggest regret, I fell for the trap. Mr. Paul Pogba trap. Got all excited. He's coming back. The rest is history. I bought it with the Champions League patch on it. Needless to say, that didn't go well. So, Juventus, if you're listening, if you ever tune in, please, could I have a redo on this kit? I'd really appreciate it. I'll keep the Champions League patch, but if I could, maybe get a new name on that, that'd be great. But I know that won't happen. But hey, I still rock it with pride. I love the color. When I go to the fan club and I wear it, a lot of the guys give me a hard time, and I just kind of laugh. I'm like, hey, I'll admit, man, I'm a sucker. We were all hoping Paul would come back and, bring some magic, and it didn't happen. And
It
hey, it
didn't
is what it
work.
is.
It
But
didn't work. That's for sure.
for me, easily
Nice
my
kit
biggest
though.
regret.
Beautiful kit.
Yeah, yeah. And then, like I said, that will round out because that was my last one and or third, and then Pink 15-16 at two, and that guy's number one.
There you
So,
go. There you
but
go. Hell of a
But like I
list there, man. And yeah, some definite surprise picks. I can't wait to hear in the comments from people of what their favorite kits were and why. It's always nice to
yes.
hear it's memories, it's emotions, it's just the look, it's just the color, whatever. It's pretty cool hearing that too, man.
Yeah, so for sure, like members, like drop your top 10 in there, or even give some, some reasons or explanations why. I will just quickly add, just as like some honorable mentions that I didn't have. I had like the 17-18, the yellow with the blue. Like I
Yeah.
think it was their away kit. That
The
one, like
history of Tottenham.
I just picture Higuain with the celly,
Yeah.
like, oh, just killer with the ball up top too. Like those guys, it was awesome. The 16-17 zebra. I know not a lot of people like that
I
one,
like
but
that kit.
I think it was pretty solid. And actually, one that I didn't write down, but it was in there. I don't remember the year, but it was with the Italian, the red and green stripe down the chest as well. That one I liked. I don't remember the year, but
Yeah, I believe was 10-11. I believe it was
yeah,
ten
yeah,
eleven. I think they might have had that 2 years running, once as an away kit, once as a third kit. I could be
okay,
mistaken there. Was around 09 to 2011, I believe. But
yeah,
yeah, it's I've got some honorable mentions in there, but I tend to lean towards the Kappa and the classics and stuff like that. If I'm gonna go
yeah,
with some honorable mentions, the 90, was it 99 with the all blue and the Kappa down the stripes,
yeah.
down the sides. I always loved that kit. There's a ton. There's a ton. I could talk kits for hours. My collection, for those of you that don't know, I'm trying to collect every kit since I actually started following in 94. And I'm very close. I'm at 228 right now. Not all of them are official. Because what I
Right.
do is I will pick up replicas to kind of fill in the collection. And then as I find authentics, I replace those replicas with the authentics. And I try to rock some replicas for shows and not actually wear some of
Yeah.
those and whatnot. So it's like that's what I'm trying to do. And I'm very, very close to finishing off the collection. Finishing off the base collection, and then I have to sort through probably 8 to 10 replicas and get authentics in there. But I want to finish it first and then work from there. So yeah,
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And like I know I'm the same way, like just even with other sports, like being a hockey fan, like I've always just appreciated the authentic sweaters more. So with Calcio too, the authentic kits I've always liked. But I'm starting to lean more towards maybe picking up some replicas here and there because there are kits from the past that I've appreciated and they get pricey, but it depends, like I'll see what happens. But there are some kits like on this list that I don't have. Obviously,
yeah.
I showed and um,
They
I
become
probably got
harder and harder to find, and
yeah.
especially in decent condition sometimes. And that's why, even to round out a collection, you grab a replica, you have it, and then once you do find an authentic that pops up that's in decent shape, you swap it out and you go from there. That's what I've kind of been doing because it is hard to find certain ones back in the day that I'm trying to tackle, right? So it's
Yeah,
difficult.
yeah, exactly. And well, as I'm sure you're well aware, the wives don't appreciate it as much because it takes away from their closet space. But hey,
Yeah.
hopefully they're listening. They can afford to give us some space there.
I'm on the top rack now, but I have cleared out the floor, put some shelving across the floor now to, yeah, space is tight. Space is tight.
Right.
These racks over here help too. It's about 10
Yeah,
kits out here, but
yeah,
yeah, space is running out, so we'll see what happens.
yeah. No, but yeah, man. I think that's pretty much it in terms of like stuff that I had written down. I know there is one thing kind of to segue from the kits. We did speak mainly, and it was more of a past show of like
Yeah.
nostalgia and whatnot. But just to kind of tie into now, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask this. So it's the holiday season, as you're well aware. Christmas is around the corner. I'm sure the kids are getting all excited and geared up for Santa to show up, right? So
Oh, yeah.
to kind of tie it into now Juve talk or discussion, I was thinking, I sent it out in the group actually yesterday. I had a question, simple, and the answer cannot be the Scudetto because that's an obvious answer that we'd all pick. But if Santa was to bring Juve one gift, it can be for this year. You can kind of tie it into the years moving forward. What would that one gift be, and why? Again, you can take this kind of in any direction. I know one of my paisans. In particular, I know what his answer would be, and it would relate to the coach. I'm not going to name names, Reno.
Yeah.
But yeah, what would your gift be?
5 billion euros for Giuntoli to cook, and we can absolutely dominate and destroy Serie A from now until the end of time. But I will say, not banking on the Mercado, I would hope that Santa brings Juve this gift to find that extra gear with who we currently have on the roster. Maybe
Okay.
put us into some situation where Max has to try something new that maybe he otherwise wouldn't, and maybe that unlocks that next step for this current Juventus, because I don't want to put all my eggs into one basket of hoping for someone to come in and putting this pressure on them as a savior in a winter mercado. So I'm going to go that route and say that I hope we find that answer within and amongst the ranks of who we currently have. And I believe there's a lot of options there. And for everyone that's going to join us tomorrow on the preview show for Frosinone, we're going to relay some options. And it's going to be interesting to talk about all the different scenarios that are actually available to us with who we have. That's what I would say. What's your
Nice.
one gift?
I like that because it's a different spin on it, right? And again, I'm curious to hear if any of the other members want to drop that in the comments as well under the video. Yeah, just to hear like what would you choose? For me, I'm gonna kind of keep it probably the most obvious and the simplest answer would just be an attacking midfielder and just one because again it's one gift. It'd be nice to just say, oh, bring in Turam, bring in Samardzic, bring in Sudakov, and everybody, but you can only really pick one on the list, so I'm also trying to lean more towards what I think is a more realistic option. And by the sounds of it, it sounds like Samardzic is a realistic option based on what's happening right now with Udinese. I didn't even realize that last week he didn't even play. And hearing your update videos, like tuning into that and listening and seeing, like, wow, was just left as a what I forget what you described it as,
Technical
like
choice. Yeah,
tactical
left
choice.
out by
Yeah,
technical choice.
right. So just to hear that, something's fishy there. And I know he made his thoughts known early on about how he did want to pursue another go in another direction. He could see kind of the direction Udinese is going, and we're right there, ready for the taking, right? And you're hearing the rumors of possibly Marley Ake staying on his loan from his loan spell, and then maybe adding in a Nicolucci again, like I want to keep all these young guys. I really do believe Nicolucci is a great player. Now, you could argue is he Juventus material, but clearly other teams are seeing what we see in him. It's just Max isn't giving him the playing time. And hey, if we can turn that into a guy that actually could benefit the team and help us achieve that Scudetto run that we're hoping to go on and continue on, or we're right there within 4 points, then that would be that would be my gift. Like I said, you can go in so many different directions, right? If I want to stir the pot a bit, I'd say, hey, maybe a new manager or whatnot. But again, like I'm trying
Yeah.
to keep it relatable to right now, right? We know Max isn't going anywhere, and like I liked yours actually because to me that might be the best option is something like just finding another gear with what we have because it's no guarantee that we're going to be even able to add anybody, right? So for me, it's just more of like wishful thinking because we don't really know what's going to happen, right?
There's no guarantees in general. Whether we pull a player in, whether we switch coach, like nothing's a guarantee. I think, based on enough evidence through this season, and I've been harder on the current players playing for Juventus and their performances, and I stand by that. And I find it kind of funny as we sit around and watch a Bologna side who is doing great things, and Motta's getting praised as this inspiring football that they play and everything like that. And I'm like, well, I find it funny because they defend a lot and their whole game is based off defensive solidity. Very similar to Allegri's approach. They average 3 shots less than Juventus. They hold about 53% percentage possession based on Juve's 47, but they average 4 shots less than Juventus. Or sorry, 2 or 3 shots less than Juventus even. Their conversion rate is at the same as Juventus. They're not scoring as much, but he's getting praised. Max is getting thrown to the wolves. And the staggering stat for me was that a 13-14 Juventus side that included Pirlo, Marchisio, Pogba. Everybody says to me, well, when I threw that stat out, Bologna's doing this without Pirlo and Pogba. You don't need a Pirlo, Marchisio. I was like, you're missing the point of what I'm saying. Because what I'm saying is that even that team, with all those players, averaged the same amount of shots, 12 shots per game, through all their matches as this current Juventus side is doing. So at the end of the day, if you want this Juventus side to start creating with the roster we have over and above what that roster did, is this apples to apples here? Or you're wanting this current side to average way more shots? Inter, absolutely steamrolling the league, is averaging 13 shots, one more shot than Juventus per game.
Right.
I would say we have a major creativity issue if the big chances weren't skyrocketing, And people are saying, well, we're creating from set pieces, we're creating from this, corners, all this, they're gritty goals. Big chances are big chances.
Yeah.
3 big chances a game. You should be able to put enough to get the job done if your defense is solid enough. However they come. And that's where we're averaging. And we're right there with Inter for big chance created. Do we want more from open play? Yes. But are we stumbling in open play? Why are we stumbling in open play? And that's where the arguments kind of arise. For me, the execution of the guys in open play is nowhere near what it needs to be. People want to talk about game plans, styles, all this. I'm telling you, that's only good to get you in the opposition's area, final third, and then from there, your guys got to take over.
Yep.
We need more. I think Max is actually doing a good job for what he has. And I will say, these guys, how many years need to go by with certain guys that we keep making excuses for? It's time to cook. It's time to cook. But I do not free Max of criticism when it comes to trying something else, to just make these subtle tweaks. We're locked into something that I don't think is 100% there to be locked in on. And for that, I will criticize. And we're talking about McKennie, Rabiot in a midfield making 2/3 of it. I'd like to see something tweaked there. Or potentially even a 1v1 winner like Illing Jr. getting in to give us some type of variance. That's my only criticism right now for Max. Other than that, I think he's got it spot on and rolling pretty good. These guys got to start putting games away and putting their chances away. But yeah, it's interesting to see, man. Because I think you're right. Majority of Christmas gifts out there would be focused around a coach.
Yeah.
But maybe it should be elsewhere.
You make a good point, though, because, I mean, especially with the games recently, execution. It comes down to execution, because how many chances have we had at goal that haven't been put away? And the few that have been put away that won us those close, tight games, a la Gatti, 2 of them, actually, against Monza and Napoli, right? Like, it kind of masked the overall lack thereof of execution. And one thing that I will mention is a guy like Dusan, he gets all the flack on all the channels and all the headlines that I'm seeing from Juventini. But it's not just secluded or specific to him. Chiesa hasn't
It
done it
isn't.
either, and we
Yeah.
all love and defend Fede, but you know, I still feel like even a guy like Duchan, yeah, he could benefit from a tactical change. He could benefit from a managerial change, sure. But at the end of the day, you can't deny the fact that he's had chances
Yeah.
and they're just putting it away. So,
It,
you know,
and that's what's got to happen. These guys got to be better. Right now, we carry an average of a goal every 7.5 shots.
which is
Shots.
not good, not good enough.
So we already average around 12 shots per game.
Right.
If we want this team to average, when again I point out to specifically to a 13-14 side that had incredible talent in the middle of the park that averaged 12 shots per game. If you're wanting Juventus to create 15 to 16 shots on average in Serie A, okay, with this current roster, just to bag 2 goals, that's considering those shots are good.
Right.
I'm going to say the execution is more of an issue. Not even just finishing the chances, but in creating those opportunities, because the play breaks down a lot of the time before it even becomes a shot. Because if we're asking for this team to have to carry that many shots on average in this league with this roster just to get a couple goals, you're in for a world of hurt. Bologna, that gets praised again, Malta. They beat Inter yesterday. They had 7 total shots with 2 on target. Only 1 was a big chance. And they won the game because of defensive solidity. Inter had 3 big chances and missed all 3 of them. That is the difference, is execution. It doesn't matter. Do you think anybody's sitting around wondering how those big chances came around? It doesn't matter how they came. It's the fact you got them and you didn't put them away. We need to ramp up the execution. 1 goal in every 7.5 shots. If you're asking this team to come out with 16, 17, 18 shots on average to bag a couple, it's going to be a long road for us. They got to do better. They got to do better out there.
Tough ask.
We'll see what happens, man. And maybe that's our Christmas gift. Better conversion. We'll see.
Hey,
we'll see.
We might have to take that. So
I will gladly take that. I will gladly take that. Everybody has their own opinion on what could be, boosted, what needs help, what needs work. Hey, at the end of the day, we're just fans. It's left in the hands of those guys that are out there playing and coaching. Hopefully they get it right, because I literally think we don't have to change the world. We're so close. We're right there. And that's all they got to do is find that tweak. Hopefully they do it. We are out of time for this off the record. Berto, Anthony, this was a lot of fun, man. Absolute pleasure. You did a spectacular job, okay? And I really enjoyed myself taking the host hat off. Again, members, this is going to be open to members early, okay? And then will be opened up to everybody that supports the channel. All you members, take advantage of the group chat, private group chat, AJC Army group chat, and take advantage of coming on here and running a show and talking about whatever it is you want to in regards to Juventus. Anthony, I really enjoyed the topics you brought up, man. A lot of fun. Love talking about nostalgia and the old days. And we realized we had it pretty damn good. And we'd still have it pretty damn good for Juventus. Hopefully, these guys surprise us and bring us, maybe a little bit of magic to finish out the season. We'll see. But enjoy your holidays. Absolute pleasure, man. Thank you again. Everybody, thank you for your continued support. I want to put out one last reminder, and that is that while we're in the thick of the holiday season, it's not always, as enjoyable for some, and some people really struggle through this period of time. Our DMs on all our platforms and channels are always open to everybody to reach out. The one thing we can offer is just a set of ears to hear you out and hopefully help you through whatever it is. And even if it's not us, make sure you reach out and speak to somebody, because you're not alone. And I can promise you it helps and it makes a big, big difference. All right. We wish you all a very safe and happy holiday season. All right. So take care. And as always, no matter what, fino alla fine, Forza Juventus. Take care, everybody. Ciao.
Yeah.